Hey folks, Rob Potter here from thepromiserevealed.net, producer, founder of the Mount Shasta Summer Conference. Today, I'm honored to have a new friend of mine, Ismael Perez. I've been hearing about him, and people are mentioning I should have him on the show and all this stuff and come to my conference. And after researching his information and his site, I found him to be very interesting. I invited him to the conference, and we've met and done a couple shows together. And I'd like to say it's an honor to have you here, Ismail. I want to thank you for coming on the Promise Revealed show today.
Thank you, Rob. It's an honor to be here as well. Thank you for having me.
We're going to get a little bit into Ismail's history here. But first, I thought, since we're right here, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to share for some people who maybe not heard of me before, but are following because of Ismael Perez's information here, my website here. So there's a Truth References blog where you're going to be able to find this interview on Victory of the Light. And here's my summer conference. And we've had a couple scheduling changes and so forth. And my web developer messed something up. But this, if you click up on this button here, it's going to take you. I have a lot of great products and stuff down here. You'll be able to see. This one I'm wearing here is a new one. This is a Pleiadian design. Raymond Keller's amazing series of books we hear. I'm going to be in Glastonbury on August 10th doing a workshop at Neil Gaur's thing. So here's the conference, folks. There's Ismail right there. You want to come see him. You can come down here and check out the biographies. You have a schedule, where to stay, the workshops. Ismail has a workshop here. And Ismail,
Yes.
they get a little discount if they buy a ticket from you, don't they? Let's see, what is your website where they can buy a ticket? Can you tell that out slowly, spell it so people can take a pen and pencil now? And if they want to come and see you or come to the conference, they can buy a ticket through Ismail on his website. And what is the website?
Thecosmicarts.com. You could find my everything, my social media, my YouTube. You could order my book through my website. And of course, you could take my online courses. But most importantly, you could buy the ticket to come see me in person in Mount Shasta.
Right. And what is the website? Spell it out.
Thecosmicarts.com. So it's
Spell it, please. So for
TheCosmicarts.com, thecosmicarts.com.
The Cosmic Arts Plural.com. You head over there and you're going to see Ismael Perez, and he has a ticket available. Contact him, reach out to him. You can support him. The speakers, by selling tickets, they have a commission. That's how I pay my speakers. So not all of them, but that's how we do some of it. So we got the speakers, the schedule, the workshop. Volunteers are filled up. Don't bother there. We do have a few vendor positions. It's in beautiful Mount Shasta. It's absolutely incredible up here. So check out the website and have fun around there. And maybe think about coming up to Mount Shasta. It's going to be a great event. We have with speakers, guests, and volunteers, we're at about 200, 225 people now. So we have plenty of tickets left for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have a few left for Thursday, the 4-day tickets. So let's talk about Ismael Perez here. I got his book, and he actually signed a copy for me, folks. Let me come up there. Where is it? There we go. There it is. That's his book right there. So I've been going through this book. It's quite a mouthful, a lot to digest. You're going into a lot of metaphysical areas and explanations of the universal administration, a la very similar to the Urantia book, which you do draw a lot of information from. Can you tell me, before we get started on that, there's not a lot about is who is Ismael Perez. Tell us a little bit about your early life. We've spoken privately. We might go a little bit more into detail on what happened sometime between 16 and 18, I believe it is. So tell us, Ismael, where are you from? Where'd you grow up? And how did you come to get into this field that you're in now of explaining the planetary liberation process from literally multi-dimensional higher plane levels of quite complex nature?
All right, so I grew up in California. I still live in California. This is my hometown, and I am what you consider a awakened starseed. From the beginning of my childhood, I knew I wasn't from this world. I knew I was different, and I also knew that there were others like me out here on this realm. So my whole life was very difficult, very hard to fit in throughout schooling. Um, and that's why probably I became so addicted to information. I became a bookworm since the age of 15. Delved into Plato's Republic, Socrates, Pythagoras, every philosophy out there, political science. So this is me at 15 studying, heavy text, university level textbooks. I wasn't quite quenched yet, but at the age of 19, 20, I learned how to meditate. So I learned Kriya Yoga, and I was able to practice the ancient arts of breathing. And through the practicing of Kriya Kundalini Yoga, I had a spiritual awakening where I began to integrate more parts of myself, a bigger portion of my soul. I began to, anchor it, and that's when I started receiving downloads, memories of Lyra, of being the head chief of the Lyran fleets, which I still am. I do operate different avatars. I'm existing here. I have one foot here, but multiple feet in other dimensions. So I am a multidimensional being, and I am very aware of that. So I started receiving downloads at the age of 20. I wrote my first book at the age of 24 called The Secret Government, revealing the truth about the Cabal, the ancient mystery school teachings, the differences between the Light Brotherhood of the Order of Melchizedek and the Brotherhood of Darkness of the Order of the Luciferians, giving a brief understanding of the history of the world. And then I connected everything to the off-world scenario. I figured out that this whole battle between the Dark Hats and the Melchizedek Brotherhood of the Great White Brotherhood is a last phase of a war that has been happening in our Milky Way for millions of years, between the galactic humanoids, as I call them in my book, mainly the Lyrans, Pleiadians, Andromedans, the Alpha Centaurians, the people from Procyon, Taseti, so on and so forth. And of course, the villains who have been trying to conquer the entire universe, the Draco Reptilians, and the AI behind them, and the different negative beings. So in my book, what I do is I give the bigger picture, but I also tie in a portion of the Urantia material that is very factual when revealing the organization of cosmos. So it's an attempt to explain everything. It's an attempt to explain everything. It's also very metaphysical, very esoteric. I cover a lot of grounds. It's very intense.
Can I interrupt you there? I want to wind back. You've unpacked a lot of stuff. That's a really great overview of your life. So I wanted to go back to a couple points here. Number one, Kriya Yoga, which is near and dear to my heart. Did you go to Self-Realization Fellowship? Were you taught in the science of Kriya Yoga by one of the official teachers there, or how did that occur for you?
No, I actually, I was, I was, I ended up in a rehab, a Christian man's home, due to alcoholism. I used to drink a lot when I was younger,
Wow.
and in order to clear up my act, I was, by my aunts, I was, I guess, forced to go to rehab. So I picked a Christian man's home, and in that Christian man's home, there was a gentleman who was there as the cook. He wasn't there because he had drug or alcohol issues. He was there to help the pastor cook for the men. And so he volunteered, but he said the only reason he volunteered was because he felt that I was coming there. And he was told by Babaji, his master, and Sai Baba, that I would be there. and that they needed to that he needed to initiate me and teach me, because I had a huge purpose in the ascension, in the future. I had a huge purpose as far as like the liberation of the earth, and I needed to remember who I was. So at the age,
That's really good. I wanted to go off on that because I actually was fortunate. Babaji called me to his side in 1978 at a rainbow gathering, and I sat in the tent with him, and he showed me the Kriya Yoga technique. Can you share what the Kriya Yoga technique was? And I'd like to hear. Kriya Yoga, folks, is the science of the still breath, where you wait in the middle, meditation, to wait in the middle of measuring. You measure your breath and the crooks between time and space, between the inner and the outer, the material and the superluminal. And you come to a point of absolute silence. And there's some other, a key thing there. Why don't you, if you could share a little bit of the Kriya Yoga technique, this is great.
Well, it's a combination of breathing, visualization, intonation, and concentration. So it's not very simple. You have to actually train yourself to do all that at the same time. So the main primary thing in Kriya is breathing, and doing it in a way where you are breathing as slow as you can, so that you could convert the oxygen into chi, which is prana energy. So what you do is you sit in a erect posture. Your back has to be straight, because it's also a precursor to Kundalini energy activation. So you sit in a posture where your back is straight, and you begin to inhale slowly. And the whole point of inhaling is to fill your lungs up in your body with energy, you know. And then what you do is when you inhale, when you stop inhaling, when you can't inhale anymore through your nose, you hold it for a few seconds, and then you exhale slowly. And when you exhale slowly, you focus on the breath. Okay, so the whole purpose of that is to do about 16 cycles of inhaling really slow, and then you hold it for a couple seconds and you exhale really slow. Okay, the second aspect of that is visualization, is focusing on your third eye. So what you're doing is you're closing your eyes, you're putting your attention to your third eye chakra, and what you're doing is you're pretty much stimulating your pineal gland as you're doing the breath work at the same time. So now you're doing the breath work, you're inhaling slowly, and you're holding it for a couple seconds at the top of your inhale, and then you exhale while you're focusing on your third eye chakra. And then the third phase of that is when you're inhaling, you're visualizing blue light coming from the core of the earth, going up your spine as you're inhaling slowly, like that, through your crown chakra, connecting to the core of the galaxy. And then when you're exhaling, then you see the reverse. You see the white light coming from the great central sun, from the galaxy, going to your crown chakra, descending down your spine, and then, of course, through your root chakra, connecting back to the core of the earth. So that's the third part of it, is the visualization of the blue light going up and the white light coming down. And I was also told that it's important to coil your tongue backward, like this, because what that does is that allows the energy to circulate and build momentum, like this. So the whole purpose of that is to see if you could do about 16 cycles without interruption, without losing your concentration, your focus, because again, you're putting your focus on your third eye, your pineal gland. You're also putting your focus on your breath, and you're also visualizing the blue light going up as you're inhaling, and then the white light coming down as you're exhaling. Of course, there are different aspects of Kundalini, but that's the main one that I've been focusing on, that allowed me to access my higher memories and to begin integrating more of my multidimensional self.
That's very important, folks. The Venusians have taught me several things. One is that the science of prayer and of meditation, they call meditation entering the silence, and the silence of Kriya Yoga, which Ismael very well described. I actually learned from Babaji. He was sitting in the full lotus position, very small waist, very, very small waist, and his hair was kind of scruffy. He kind of did look like what we would call the Harikhan Baba when he first appeared in India. But the first thing he did was, I want to show you something. And he got his hands in with the right hand on top of the left below his navel, and he rolled his eyes back, folks. And he didn't roll them back a little bit. He rolled them back. They were white, and I could see they kept going. He was looking directly more into his pineal gland, the pituitary gland, which goes straight back. It was, to me, it was like way back there. And I already knew about the bindus of tightening the root chakra and the fire, breath of fire, which was to speed it up. But one of the things you mentioned was focusing on the light with your tongue in the back. Now, and in Yogananda, another person who learned Kriya Yoga directly from Yogananda, was able to curl his tongue back, and it went behind the little punching bag or the epiglottis. So it's not necessary that you do that, but he had a unique ability to do that, which would allow him to stimulate, and it causes a secretion of what they call amrita, or a neurohormonal thing, which causes the bliss. Now, Montauk Chia, for those who focus on some of, he's kind of a sexual guru with circulating energy. He says just touching the back of the throat. There's one behind the teeth. I think it's called Jade Girl. And then if you push back at least to the top of the epiglottis, if you can get your tongue that far, that's called Jade Boy. So in the circulation of the light, this understanding of the chi and the luminous etheric nature of the body is really important. And I think that, when it comes down to all of this stuff in the UFO field and expanding consciousness, the Venusians have made it very clear that it's an individual responsibility. And how are we going to raise our frequencies? And what Ismael, the practice of Kriya Yoga, what Ismael and I do, is one of the, I would say, the most powerful tools to burn off your concentration. I'm going to say one other thing here, or a couple other things with Kriya Yoga. Yogananda also indicated absolute stillness and emptiness of all thoughts. So once you get to that position where you're offering the in-breath, and as Ismael said, it's very slow, maybe a count in of 6, hold for 6, exhale for 6, hold for 6, and inhale. And you're going to find as you practice this, it's a very, very slow breath that allows you to kind of wait in the middle. It can take longer. There are yogis that can, do that and stay in a closed box that has 20 minutes of normal air. They can stay in there for 4 hours. So it's a very kind of it can be a super physical aspect that comes with that, but that shouldn't be focused on. The final thing is this disciple of Yogananda, who was his chauffeur and wrote a beautiful book called Return of the Ancients, Norm Paulson. He was also George Van Tassel, the giant rock contactee who had those big contacts, the real contacts in the desert out there. He said he was out there, he was going through a dark time, and the Ships and the brothers had been around him his whole life. He started the first smoothie company ever in the world, a fresh pressed organic smoothie called Sunburst Farms. And Naked Juice, all those are kind of copies and ripoffs of that. Nothing as pure as they had. But he was out in the desert praying at Goat Mountain near Giant Rock. And he was practicing his Kriya Yoga, and the demons were coming around, and we're going to get you, Paulson. And he was kind of in a down space in his life. And he said he completed 108 circumambulations of the light. And he achieved a high spiritual state. And at that point in time, one of the cities of Shan, they call them, or the New Jerusalem, actually landed in the desert, and he went on board and he sat on the bridge, and they gave him some things. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm kind of tying the East, the West, the extra dimensional thing. And I thank you, Ismael, for sharing that about the Kriya Yoga, which is very important. Before we delve deeply into the metaphysical teachings that you have and share in your knowledge, I would like to say a little something. And I know you have a little announcement here for the people. And I just wanted to say that, I'm a contactee, folks, of a long time. And I've been in this game and I don't make rookie mistakes anymore. I made them in the past. I probably still talk a little bit too much about the sacred and cast a few pearls before the ears that aren't ready to hear it, because I want people to hear the information of the wonderful changes coming forth. But everybody has a Christ light within them. Everybody is an immensely powerful spiritual being, and no one should judge another on their experiences or claim that someone is a fake or create dissension within our light community. I'm not going to mention any names. I think people who follow Ismael and me and Alex and some other people will understand what I'm talking about. But when I met Alex Collier, he was a hero to me, and he suffered a tremendous amount his whole life. We've been intimate since 2009 and sharing a lot of information. You can see our conversations there. And when I met Ismael, I felt a similar presence of humility. He's not focused on money. He's not focused on social media or blowing up or anything like that, but he is, because of his information and knowledge is true and correct. Now, I know you were attacked, or someone called you out, and they have no right to do that. And as elevated and as high as anyone's experience is, and as many real experiences they have, as a rookie in the field, I have 40 years. So if you're under 5 years or 6 years, even, I consider you a rookie. You gotta realize we're all working together. We all have different apperceptions of our experiences, and we may have a little bit of information. But Ismael's book, The Cosmic Origin, is extremely spiritual, very positive. He doesn't shirk away from Christ or Michael or explaining the hierarchy of light. Now, so with that said, I don't like it when people attack each other, and through a moment of error, I think both sides of the coin here, and I'm speaking about a little problem with Alex and Ismael, and I just felt, man, both these guys are on the same page. And I reached out, and to their credit, both of these gentlemen chose to make nice. I arranged a call, and why don't you just share a little bit? And I don't know if Alex is paid for, but I don't know. But I want you to just share some stuff, and then we'll get back to our interview. Go ahead, tell us what happened, or just feel.
Got on a call with Alex, and he went first, and he was telling me that he's actually grateful for my work, and he's been studying some of the stuff that I've been revealing, and he says that I'm doing great, and it almost seems like because of his age and because of his retirement, I felt like he was passing over the baton of disclosure over to me.
That's what he said.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, because he started it, 40 plus years ago. I mean, he's a veteran in this, and just like yourself, I've always saw him as a pioneer and as a hero, big inspiration for me when I was younger. And so he did say that he's grateful for my work, and that that I have to stay in always. I have to be in my integrity at all times, because this work isn't easy. He said, it's very hard. It's very challenging at times, but you have to stay humble and you have to stay true to yourself no matter what. So I felt like he was just passing the torch of disclosure over to me, and I felt like that was an honor coming from Alex Collier, because Alex Collier is, I would say, between him and Dolores Cannon and Sheldon Neidl, I mean, those are like the three pioneers of this movement. Everybody else came after them. And
Not necessarily, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sure there's others before Dolores Cannon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole point is that he was very respectful of me. He was able to, share with me his positive thoughts about me, and that I'm actually doing great work. And to me, that was a blessing to hear from Alex himself, who is a legend, to hear that my work is very beneficial in the disclosure movement, rather. And to me, that was awesome. That was awesome that I was able to actually get on the phone with Alex Collier. And then, of course, I did apologize if I
Yeah.
might have said bad. But again, I said it because I felt like, I don't want to mention her name, but I think people know that there's a
Yeah. I
distortion.
and
Other,
and there's another a co-person who's just defending her best friend, and I don't want to make any judgments or aspersions on any of her information. I do have uh, certain knowledge about certain things, but I don't want to bring up any rancor or any disagreements between anyone. And the main point is we all have to work together. I was getting a lot of calls. You better watch out for Ismael, and followers. Look, every follower you have, Alex Collier, myself, whoever you're following, they have errors and mistakes, and there may be improper information based on our own personal apperceptions. So let's leave that aside now. Thank you for acknowledging, folks. I arranged an apology between Alex and Ismael, and Ismael has a very important role to play here in this moving forward of disclosure. I really like that the name of this conference is ETs and Angels, the new spiritual paradigm in the omnidimensional, or in the multidimensional omniverse. So we got some great information. The Queen of Venus, the head of the Galactic Confederation of the Solar Hierarchy of Light, and the head of the Galactic Confederation of Light of this solar system, Sirius and others, is given a message to us, talking about the angels and ETs and explaining this. So we're going to have a great conference. Now I wanted to go back, if I could, now that we've explained that, let's reel it back to when you were young, because I think this is important, folks. We talk about he had a feeling as a star seed and very intuitive, and he started learning and having these experiences. But one of the primary things that, and most people know me, I'm really, if someone says they have a contact, I like to narrow it down. I definitely like face-to-face contactees who've had them land and met them, or been on board, or had communication face-to-face. So I asked him when I first met him, I think it was at 5D in Los Angeles. It said he did say he'd had some physical contacts in his younger days. And moving forward now, and I'll just say this, preface this so you can understand the second part of Ismael's information. It comes from what I call night classes. That's what the Venusians call it. You were taken in your sleep, and you are on board a ship in the astral plane, and you are experiencing teachings and trainings, which they've told me will be revealed at a certain point in time. The veil and the blocks will lift off, and everyone will remember. This may be happening in the near future. So let's get into your physical contacts, and then kind of explain Victoria Liljenquist, who you're going to meet, who kind of liked what you were having to say, has very similar experiences. She is bilocating on the earth, talking while her physical body is sleeping, an etheric double, crazy stuff, folks, which is beyond my experience. When I was younger, I did have this experience, but it was very young, and I couldn't really, it took me years to assimilate those experiences. So please tell us in detail what you remember from A to Z on your physical contacts. And then let's talk about your night classes, how they started, and a little more detail in some of that. Okay. And I'll shut up now. Thanks.
Okay, so my first contact was probably at the age of maybe I would say 16. When I was I was walking home from school, and I just remember looking up at the sky and seeing a huge ship. I don't know how big it was, but it was huge, probably the size of a football field. But it was just hovering about maybe 300 feet above my head, and I just remember being teleported inside the ship and meeting some of the commanders. Commander Kortik, and he says, "I'm Commander Kortik. I'm in charge of the Interplanetary Communications Network. You are, your Earth name is Ishmael, but you do have a name up here. My name up there is Kyle." And then after Kortik introduced himself, I met Kaligal. She's a female commander as well, working with the Palladian forces. And then after I met them, then Ashtar came in, and we're talking about the real Sharon Ashtar, from the Antares system. And he came in, and he was telling me that I was chosen to help in the disclosure movement, and that my information was going to fill in a lot of gaps, a lot of missing information, a lot of higher knowledge. So they called it the next level of disclosure. So this is right before I started writing my book, Our Cosmic Origin. Well, not necessarily, but I'm sorry, it took me about 10 years to write that book. But this is that's when the thought first came into my mind about this book. And all of a sudden, I just remember, I thought it was a dream. I don't even remember how I got home. I got home somehow. I had some missing time. And I honestly, Robert, I thought it was a dream. But then when I was 21, I started seeing ships again. And then they were transmitting information telepathically. And I knew it was the same three: Kortik, Kaligal, and Ashtar. And they were telling me the same thing. They were like, okay, now you're stepping into your power. We've sent Master Fashi, who is a disciple of Babaji, to initiate you. And now that you are doing the work and you are becoming more aware of yourself, now we're going to share more information with you. And then that's when they started downloading information. So that's at 20, that's when I started getting the downloads. But at 16 was my first encounter. And then I think as a kid, I had several encounters, but those memories are vague, where I was taking up on a ship, and they were like working on my genetics. They were upgrading me and stuff. Because even as a kid, I was like really advanced. I was doing third grade math in kindergarten. So yeah, that's all I remember, but for the most part, they're always there, and telepathically, they're always communicating with me when they need to. If I'm in a position where I'm going to be in trouble or something's going to happen, they always warn me ahead of time. So I can't hear you, Rob.
I've had a little bit of those warnings myself, and a guy like me, rebel with a cause, I guess, definitely needed some warning. And they told me, they confirmed later, yeah, we've been around to help you when you might get in trouble here or there, and during certain things. So we got to be careful. We do have a responsibility here. With those early contacts and the sightings of the ships, a lot of people are having this, and this is where a lot of people are awakening very quickly. And I just want to remind people, I won't deny everyone's personal experience, but the group that's contacting you, that federation has an agenda. The planet from which the being hails has an agenda, and that being has an agenda. You also have your apperceptions of religion, race, everything. So the information can come through in a similar vein, but it's filtered through things. And so they seem so different and divergent. So I want to make this real clear. For the most part, the heavy bad guys are gone now. They have a suicide crew, and there's still a lot of stuff that's gonna, the lower human traitors to humanity, those hybrids, elites that have nothing to offer, the politicians are still running a game. But for the most part, I'll say the earth is liberated. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
We're not going back, folks. So let's I want to just to mention that. So you started having these downloads, and did you continue? When did your out of body experiences and all this information, was it going on all the time, and it took you time to process it, or how did you get all this information in your book? Was this more recent?
No, all throughout my 20s. Yeah, the book took forever to write because there was times where I would go into these meetings where I would end up on these councils with many different extraterrestrials on motherships, and I would feel inspired, and then I would come back and have all this information to type. And then there was times where I couldn't connect for like a year or so, and I would put the manuscript away. And then again, every time I was taken up there, I felt inspired. It's like they gave me new information, so I had to like type it. So the whole time, it took me about 10 years because there was times where I was, connecting with them through my dreams. And then there was times getting the downloads. And then there was times where I had no motivation, I had no inspiration, I had no downloads. So I put the manuscript away. And that's the reason why it took me almost, 11 years to finish it. Yeah.
Wow. So this is a long, hard thing. As you learn more, did you go back and edit some of the early stuff, or did you kind of leave that from that experience as you wrote it? Or
because they always tell me, okay, due to the timeline wars, things are constantly shifting. So I need you to write this now. I need you to write this now. But every chapter in that book, they told me every chapter is a trigger to awakening for anyone that reads it. Like this book, whether it's read by a person who's awake or a normie, it's going to, trigger a mass awakening in the long run.
Yeah, I want to say, folks, from the beginning here, he really goes into a lot of great information about DNA and frequency and who we are. We're literally a manifestation of the infinite mind of God. So what it all comes down to is the unknowable, the unspeakable, the ever-present, or as Alex and I call it, the isness, always is, was, and will be, without a name, without a form, yet within all forms and beyond all names and forms at the same time. This paradox of the universe, which he goes into in the wave and string theory, it's actually a paradox. Science can't grasp it. And, this has all been talked about by Helena Pedrova Blavatsky before. So it's very complex explaining. And I'll use one thing as a sand on a plate. When it changes, it creates a shape. And then as you change the frequency, it goes into chaos. And he has a great description here, always keeping Christ and the universal Father, and actually explaining the descent of the celestial humanoids and the what's called the fall, or when Lucifer did his thing there. So it's an amazing treatise coming forward, and I'm almost through all of it here. It's quite involved. So why don't you take us through some of what you feel are, now that we have people on board that, okay, the extraterrestrials are here, we're being liberated. Give us what you think is important for humanity to embrace. Give us a strong keynote of your book.
Okay, so what I would love for people to take from my book is it's just understanding that you are it, that there is no separation, that everything is connected in the cosmos, everything is one. And that the main premise of that book is stressing the fact that we are part of the unified field, we are part of the omniverse, we are extensions of the one. From the central universe, we're all sparks of that. And we all began as wholesome light beings of light, and we were all involved in a descent, involution of spirit into matter. And now we're going to be reversing that. So that's what I want people to gather from the book, is that it's not about evolutionary theory. It's about starting from the top down. We didn't begin from the bottom up. We begin as whole light beings. And so we are going to return to our eternal state of being eventually. I can't hear you, Alex.
Sorry. One of the things he said here, which I agree with in the book, he says, he didn't say it like this, but you said, and I've always called the physical manifestation is a vanguard of spirit. This is where the descent of the light beings are spiritualizing matter. And that's known as the Christ consciousness. The pyramid consciousness is a principle of matter made flesh, and the Christ consciousness is mind conditioned through time and space in matter returns unto spirit. So we are spiritualizing matter. We are raising the vibration of matter by our awareness and our remembering of who we were. So I think that was a really good point you talked on here. Can you talk a little bit, Sanat Kumara? I mean, I've heard that, you know, from the Venusians, and I know that this is what they say, and I believe it, that Sanat Kumara was born possibly on Tau Ceti 25 million years ago, when they were losing on a planet called Norca that was losing their atmosphere. I'm not sure which type of drive they had, but they came to our solar system and they landed on Mars and Venus. And at a certain point in time, Sanat Kumara and 3 other brothers, they're called the 4 Kumaras, have been ascended. They were born and ascended to the highest dimension in one lifetime, whatever that means, according to them. And it seems to me that they've been out incarnating on multiple systems on worlds, acting as avatar teachers. Can you share a little bit? What they had told me was that he chose to incarnate as Jesus the Christ to hold the Creator's Son, Archangel Michael. This is a complex subject, but you resonate with me in your description. I'd like to hear from you, Lord Michael, Sanat Kumara, and Christ or Sananda, or how that goes. I mean, I'm not sure. It's a complex subject.
Yeah, well, they're different beings that are working and embody the same office, which is the office of the Christ. So Michael is embodying, he's like the logos of our universe, you know, and we could say that Sanat Kumara is the logos of our solar system. Now he was the Lord of Venus, but he's been promoted now as the solar logos, from what I understand. So that's a process that we ourselves are also going to be undergoing as we ascend. You know, those are different positions, or different, what I call in my book, different offices that we hold as we become more connected with different aspects of ourselves, and we begin to integrate spirit and matter, because the whole purpose of this is to, like you said, to spiritualize matter. So Sanat Kumara was the first to do that. He was the first to do that. From what I understand is he had a lifetime in Orion. He was, as an infiltrator to the Draconians. His mother was of the house of Sananda, which is the house of Michael. His father was,
yeah, I read that.
He was a dragon, and he was able to integrate both sides, light and dark. And as a result, he became fearsome. He, you know, Kundalini energy rising up his spine, very powerful Jedi. And he was also involved in the resistance, the rebel resistance against the Draco-Orion Empire. And then as a result of that, he was able to receive his new body. And then that's when he went to that solar system that he talked about, Tau Ceti, right? And then from Tau Ceti, when he was a humanoid, then he came over to Venus. But he has a long history with Michael. I mean, his history, you could trace it back to Nebadon, the great central sun of our local universe. That's where he comes from. You know, he's what I call a descending son of light.
Okay. So, can you explain to people logos?
Well, a logos is it's the universal mind. It's the universal mind of our universe. So there's different aspects of the logos, and each one relates to a central sun. So our universe itself is as a mind, is, you could say that the central sun of the universe itself, that's where the focus is, that's where the mind is, that's the logos, that's where the mind concentrates. Within each universe, you have different galaxies. Now, each galaxy has its own logos, which is each galactic core. And then furthermore, each galactic core gives birth to billions of solar systems. So in turn, each solar system is a smaller logos. And then in turn, each solar system gives birth to planets. And in turn, each planet is also a logos. So a logos is really just the mind of the sphere that embodies that level of existence. So we have planetary logos, we have solar system or star logos, galactic logos, and universal logos.
And logos also it's as the word. So in the beginning was the word of God. So I'd see it as like as above, so below. We individually are logos of the millions and trillions of lives that come up in our body. We have cells and bacteria. Everything relies on us and comes and goes. In the solar system, Michael is the creator son of this galaxy. And so he ensouls all the beings here. Now, talk a little bit about the overshadowing of Michael and Christ in that life and the 3.5 years and how you would break that down.
Well, you have an ascending part of the Godhead, which began from the top down, and then you have a descending part of the Godhead. So we believe that the ascending part of the Godhead is Sananda through the line of King David. And then also the descending part of the Godhead is the incarnated Michael of Nebadon, who completed his seventh bestowal in order to become master son of his local universe. And so what he did 2,000 years ago when he incarnated in the body of Jesus Sananda, well, he overshadowed him in a sense where they fused as one being in order for him to experience, the third dimension, right? We have a high sun coming from the local universe coming into third dimensional reality. So the difference is that we still have a lineage of the Sananda lineage through the line of what they call the Holy Grail that's still existing through the many descendants. But Michael was the one who overshadowed Sananda 2,000 years ago when he did his ministry. It was the same. It's almost like the same being coming together as one, the ascending and the descending part of the same being, pretty much. I can't hear you, Robert. I still can't hear you.
I like to keep it quiet so I don't interrupt sometimes, but that's really good. I really like that. And folks, that's one of the reasons before I knew too much about him, I really resonated with Ismael's information because I'm not really what you would call a Bible thumper or a Jesus freak, but I've always recognized the teachings. And with the Venusians' relationship with Sananda and Sanat Kumara, I've come into this and I've understood they told me some of my previous lifetimes and stuff involved in this plan that Ismael and I and many others and all of you are part of individually. I would just say, don't worry about what it's in your heart that's important. So we've talked about Sananda and Christ. So really, thank you very much for that. Now, I'd like to, without dwelling too much on this, we have this other aspect, and I was kind of reading what you're talking about, how even the dark side is part of the plan and all that. But let's take us back to, because we have in his book, Fosback, he's going back millions of years. And in one level, it's really good to understand the divine plan and what's going on. On another level, we could just go back 100,000 years and kind of look at the Earth situation. I think that's enough for people to bite off maybe 1 million years ago. But we have these two different myths that were given, to the celestial humanoids in the descending celestial humanoids. And then we have another myth that was given, and you talk about Satan as Samana or Lucifer, or the Vegans call them the Satanian rebellion and all that. Let's talk about a little bit, kind of in a real fast forward split between the default of the heavenly administration when Lucifer gave that talk and took a third of the heavens unknown with him into the fall, and explain a little bit about the rings and the areas, not super detailed, but bring it down and then take us and kind of bring us to Atlantis and Lemuria, which is more relevant, I think, for us to go back. If we go too high into this other stuff, which you can do in his book, folks, it can be mind bending and twisting and turning using terms. Unless you're familiar with Yanahian's script and the Urantia book, might leave you a little wondering. But he's going to break it down right now and give it to us in a condensed crib note form and bring us up to Atlantis, and then can go forward maybe.
Okay, so basically there were two forces in the universe. One force that decided to follow Lucifer were designed to conquer. In other words, they were all about service to self. They were designed to manipulate, conquer, and just do whatever they wanted with the universe, and they were told that. And then this other aspect, which are the benevolent beings, where our ancestors come from Lyra, they were designed to do the opposite of that. They were designed to service to others mentality, where they were, come across species and teach them harmony, balance, cooperation, agriculture, and all that stuff. So basically, they clashed in our universe. These two forces clashed, and that's what began the Galactic Wars. So we could say that the celestial humanoids were demonstrating the feminine aspect of God, which is service to others, love, nurturing, compassion. And the reptilians, the children of Lucifer Samana, were demonstrating service to self and the masculine aspect, totalitarianism, fascism, all that stuff. So what happened as a galactic war that involved many star systems, basically they narrowed it down to our solar system, because this is where the last battle takes place. And through a portal in Mars, the reptilians of Orion were able to infiltrate our solar system. And this was back during the days when the Earth was still a super Earth known as Tiamat. And now that we know of her, it's the asteroid belt, right? And a chunk of it later evolved as our Earth. Well, there was several seedings that the reptilians destroyed during the first seeding or colonization of our solar system. Lemuria and Atlantis were like the third or the fourth seeding, but this is going back to like Polaria and Hyperborea. So basically,
real quick, I want to go back to Tiamat, the super Earth that exploded. And that actually, one of the pieces hit Venus, slowed it down, it rotates in the other direction. So what is the time frame for that? And can you talk a little bit about that was a previous Earth where life was in the solar system during that cycle around, and break that down a little bit, what happened there?
Okay, so when our solar system was infiltrated by the reptilians through the Mars portal, the Martian colony was the first one to become destroyed by the infiltration process. And then back then we had colonies everywhere. We had Venus, from the third dimension and up, on physical reality as well, not just in the higher dimensions. Everything was colonized. We had all kinds of extraterrestrials coming from different parts of the universe to our solar system, because our solar system was like the hub of many universes. They called it the Intergalactic Exchange Center of Information. And it was designed that way from the beginning. But unfortunately, the Draconians infiltrated us through a Mars portal, created a military outpost on the deserted planet Maldek, which is another planet that existed now is known as the Kuiper Belt. And when they created their outpost, they launched a preemptive strike against the original colonies. And the original colonies go back to even 5 million years ago, 4 to 5 million years ago. Those were the first colonies in our solar system that predated Atlantis and Lemuria. So, this is history going back to millions of years ago.
So I understood that whatever Maldek was, I thought that was just another name for Tiamat. You're saying they're two different planets.
Planets, yeah. Yeah, Tiamat is the Earth that we live on now. So Earth, a chunk of Tiamat later evolved into the Earth that we are now in. That's why the Earth is 1/3 the size smaller. Because even planets reincarnate, just like we do. The original Earth came from Lyra. Came all the way from the Lyra system, which was known as the Avium or Terra. And then from that, it fell into our solar system. It was caught by our star system. After the first galactic war that took place in Lyra, when planet Avion was destroyed, a chunk of Avion was caught by our solar system, and then that's how it developed into Tiamat over time. And then that's when they seeded our solar system, when Tiamat was ready for life. That's why many members from Andromeda were also coming to Tiamat to see if the planet was ready for habitation. and then they would report to the central universe that planet Tiamat, as they call Urantia, was now ready for habitation, and that's when they first colonized it, or planted the seeds, rather, approximately 4 to 5 million years ago.
So these are higher dimensionals. What order would these beings? These are seventh, eighth, ninth dimensional beings reporting to Nebadon and the higher levels, and they just say, in a million years that planet's going to be looking good, kind of
Yes,
thing.
that's how it always works in the universe. All the planets are registered, and all the planets where they take samples of the planet, and then they bring it back to Arvinton, super universe, and the central universe, because ultimately all the decisions are made by the central universe. What happens in the local universes. So that's when they saw that our solar system was fit for life. When Tiamat was ready, and then again it was infiltrated through the Mars colony. So the Mars colony was the first one that fell, and then of course later we hear about how when Atlantis was established, the same Martians that destroyed Mars infiltrated Atlantis as well. Again, all in service to self, leaning towards the reptilian agenda.
This really ties in with the UFO contact from Iarga that Wendell Stevens wrote with a pseudonym of a banker type guy in Brussels. They called him Stefan den Erd, which is Stephen from the Earth. He had a contact. His ship made a contact with a giant mothership, and they brought him inside. He saved one of their members who had fallen off and was drowning. He jumped over the side and landed on the hull, and he went over and picked this guy up. And as he picked him up, he was so heavy, he had a spacesuit. He couldn't really see in there, and a light came on. They had a little I'll call it a pier that came up, and the guy had fallen off of, and they bowed their head and they picked their guy up. And he went there, and he was telepathically communicated with, and said he waited there, and then he was invited to go on board. And then they told him, they took him into a room, and they asked him if he wanted to. They would give him a piece of metal that couldn't be decided, or they could give him a bigger gift and show them about their world. And these were like a monkey type being, aquatic. And they talk about the Satonian rebellion, and they actually said it happens on all worlds where the self-love pole of matter and the selfless love pole of matter are presented, and the people make a choice. And that's what's kind of, I think, happening now, is this energetic choice. And they said the Antichrist, as it's called, can be in one individual or in multiple, what they would call Satan's gang, which I would call some of these reptilian hybrids or projections down here now. So folks, here we see this kind of long-term thing in the history of Earth and Tiamat. It seems we've had several destructions. And talk about the Earth. I don't know how many millions of years ago that was, but can you talk a little bit about from Tiamat, what the situation was? Have they been keeping the reptilians at bay? As far as I know, the Federations, the reptilians have had to abide pretty much by certain rules and laws, and they basically have recently been called out for violation of free will. But because of their might and power, they were given a leeway, which allowed a lot more suffering here than on most worlds. I won't say it's the most, but can you talk a little bit about, after the destruction of Tiamat, the radiation, and what kind of happened after the reforming? It seems like even these higher dimensionals are constantly battling. So we're thinking like, wow, we're getting to the fifth dimension, but a lot of these guys, they fell down from the 10th and 11th. They're still in the fifth dimension running amok, right?
Yeah, from what I understand is that the reptilians have been already escorted out of our solar system, with the remaining few that have been lurking in the Ukraine area. And that's why, Putin is cleaning house down there with super soldiers. But we don't have to worry about the reptilians anymore. Our solar system is fully protected now, because we have you could say, we have like these huge, I want to say electromagnetic fields, like frequency fences that they put around our solar system, where nothing could come in or out. And what they're doing is, for those that decided to hide or hid somewhere within our solar system, is they're going to get nuked when the solar flash takes place, because that's an event that we're all waiting for any day now. So that's why I tell people we don't have nothing to worry about. There is going to be no new world order. They're done with. The Earth Alliance, the Galactic Federation of Worlds, is about to liberate this planet, and that's all we've been waiting for across the galaxy. So we don't have to worry about reptilians anymore. I can't hear you, Rob.
Most people kind of get triggered when I talk about Kim Gogan, but she's ground command, and the Galactic Confederation of Light has handed the Earth over that used to be controlled by Marduk, one of the fallen sons of the new, that's been wreaking havoc here and controlling the Earth. And I'll say this is in the Bible as well, talking about the archons. There are good archons and bad archons. Archon simply means manipulator of matter, or an ascended master is an archon. Those people that have that ability, those beings, can use it for good or bad. They fell within the earth and they corrupted the earthly administration. There was a being named Caligastia siding with Lucifer, and there was a being named Vond from the earth, one of the faithful planetary princes, who argued for Michael and the forces of light. Now, the earth was separated at that point within the administration within the earth, and this influenced greatly the earth situation. And the money system, the quantum system, was actually part of the universal administration. And there seemed to have been, like, allegedly a balance between the dark and the light in there. So the light forces have been holding the reptilians at bay. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what's happening with what happened when they kind of got out of control here? They've been allowed to for 16,000 years, I believe. There was some battles going on that they were probably behind orchestrating between the Earth and colonies. And when things were open on this planet, there was a lot of disagreements, a lot about genetics, about control, about manipulation of the Homo sapien that was not quite ready for its own development. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so I'm kind of curious, what was I guess a universal administration of light knew that they were going to take it out in the long run. Down here, we see like so much suffering and so much going on. What do you hear from Kim Gogan? I heard a similar story from another person that you know about, we talked about, that had witnessed the surrender of one of these primary beings. Now, and I think this may have been a little bit of a contention point, but from my understanding, in the Akashic records of the book, The Transylvania Sunrise, sitting on my shelf, Enlil was a very positive influence. And it's kind of, the information there kind of is just a little reverse from what you said. It said Enlil had a very positive, more etheric, advanced form of genetic manipulation of the Homo erectus. And that was 425,000 years ago. And then at some point, he turned against that, and there was some infiltration into the Atlans, or the higher beings that saw the sons and daughters of men, and they kind of violated certain rules and having sex, and caused some problems. Now, I don't think it matters a name or the other, and I don't think it should be a bone of contention. But Enlil or Enki were two master geneticists, brothers, that had some disagreements there. And their influences have been felt. And I don't really think it's that important about whether which one. But let's talk about, was there, from your understanding, was there a judgment that kind of has given Earth back from their official ownership, folks? When the Earth invited them in 16,000 years ago to stop the battles, we signed a deal with the devil, and we've been paying for it ever since. Would you agree with that?
From what I was told, Enlil Zeus left the Earth scene to go fight in the war against the AI god in other universes, along with Krishna and other gods, guardians rather. And Enki stayed behind, and he kind of just enslaved the human race to work for him and his son. And he was also creating loosh farms here in our local star cluster, as well as in other local star clusters. So they left a hybrid bloodline behind to rule, and that was what we call the Cabal, which came from Enki, the lineage of Enki, Lucifer. So that's from what I understand. I heard that Enlil Zeus left the scene because he was needed in the war against the AI god.
Interesting. Now, this kind of goes with some South American contactees. You can read it on my website. It's called The Cosmic Plan. In there, it says that Sataniel or Samana made this appeal, and before he did it, he had talked to another being who was very influential in ending the genetic wars in Orion. Mm-hmm. So this could be true, what you're saying. And he said that he enlisted him to side with him on his thing. Maybe there was a switch. I don't know the time zones. But the bottom line, folks, is I don't think it's matter if you call it Enlil or Enki. They along with other 22 or 23 others who were farming us. Now, Alon, the security chief, says we have 120 genetic races of ETs within us, and now we're to be left alone. We are to determine our own free will, and we are to become sovereign sons once again. Would you agree with that?
Very correct, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about let's go into Atlantis, and to me it doesn't really matter. Enlil, Enki, I don't want to. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. I haven't been on the ship like you guys have. So,
Robert, I actually only had about an hour. I have to.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh yeah, we better get going here. Can we wrap it up? Can we have about 8 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to stretch his time a little bit here, but thank you so much for coming on the show. It's really great. And maybe we can do one more before the conference. I find this fascinating. I really appreciate the give and take and allowing me to, question certain things here and learning. And I don't know, I'll share one thing with you first here. This was sent to me by a guy. And so this is an older solar system, but this goes back to information on Helena Petrova Blavatsky, who was one of the main psychics who taught us about the ascended masters and a lot of the plans here. So we're talking about the solar system and the logos here, folks. We talk about the astral and the rounds of existence and the various planes. So this type of stuff has been around for a long time. And so I just wanted you all to know that a lot of stuff that Ismael's talking about is very, very positive. Let's see, I guess I would like you to share one more thing here moving forward. Once again, it's called The Cosmic, TheCosmicArts.com. That is Ismael's site. If you are interested in coming to the summer conference, he has a few discounted tickets. Why don't you hit up that website and get your tickets, and we'll see you in Mount Shasta. The other thing I guess I'd like to talk about real quick was I think I've dived too deep into some stuff, but can you share a little bit about what your workshop is? We did get a really big description. It's not so big on the website, but Ismael has a workshop coming up. I believe it's on Saturday. You'll have to check it out to be sure. But it's called Cosmic Origins, the Human 3.0. Talk a little bit about what you're going to be sharing there.
Well, yeah, I'm going to break down the entire cosmic and galactic history in detail, and also the difference between the organic rise of human 3.0, meta-humans, angelic humans with superpowers, non-technology, and the cyborg, and how the prophecies talk about how there's going to be one final battle between the meta-humans, us, and the cyborgs at the end of the millennium. But I'm going to go into detail in my workshop about the whole history of the different genetic programs, the positive ones and the negative ones, and how it really all boils down to one thing: the war against the machine.
Right, the artificial transhumanist agenda that's originated from the service to self, Jackoid reptilian evolution. There are positive reptilians, folks. One of the things I want to ask, so you said the end of the millennium, you're saying like in 1,000 years, huh?
Correct, yeah.
That's what a lot of people are saying. We're ascending to the fifth dimension right away.
No, we are. The ascension is going to take place between now and 2028. But for 1,000 years, we're going to be existing separate from the AI timeline. And at the end of the millennium, we're going to have one final clash.
Well, that kind of Raymond was talking about that. He said about 1,000 years. Now, I had asked the Venusians, everyone says we're going to the fifth dimension so quickly. When I look at this Earth and I see humanity as we are right now, I don't see any possible jump in evolution at that level. Let's talk a little bit about because you did talk about the solar system heating up, which is talked about by the Venusians. We're in the solar cloud, that there's going to be these solar flares, which are going on all the time, are being exasperated by this photon belt. And I knew Sheldon Neidl well. He was a great guy. I invite him to my conference pretty frequently, and he just doesn't make it. But tell me about what is the urgency to get it done by 2028? The Venusians said there's going to be an asteroid coming between the Earth and the Moon that's going to cause severe tidal surges, some earthquakes, weather changes, and some serious disruption to our electromagnetic electric grid systems and stuff like this. I presume that this rush of disclosure that's coming down to the wire now is due to prepare humanity for that. It seems as though a lot of human life is going to be lost through natural lack of ability to handle the changes, but we're all eternal, right? So take us to a little bit of the end time scenario that we see here between 2028 from Ismael's perspective.
Well, things are going to be escalating, in the outer world. It seems like things are just going to keep getting worse, but that's because the old system is crashing. So what's happening is we're going to be seeing AI emerging. And when AI emerges to the point where when they are everywhere, and it's become a huge thing, that's when the solar flash is going to take place and nuke it. And when the solar flash takes place, it's also going to split our worlds, not physically, but vibrationally, where the spiritual Earth is going to be going into fourth, fifth, and sixth dimension, where there is no negative technology. And then the technological dystopia that is currently being created by big tech is going to go into a different timeline. So what we're going to see is
a literal bifurcation. Yeah, bifurcation of the physical Earth, and you're saying like an etheric.
No, still going to be physical. Remember, physicality exists in every dimension. It's just matter of higher frequencies, but it's just going to be devoid of AI and devoid of negative technologies for those that go into the organic spiritual Earth. So there's going to be bifurcation, yeah.
Okay. We have a fifth dimensional Earth. It's in the interior of the planet. That frequency exists. Now, Raymond said we had 60 planets.
It's also here. It's just in a different dimension. We just have to kind of shift into it. So the solar flash is going to cause the shift. So
some people will be invisible to us. Everything will be there. We'll both have the same Earth.
Yes. Well, yes and no. We're just going to be translating from one level of reality to the next. That's all we're going to do. When the solar.
Victoria kind of talks about this too. I don't want to be a negative Nancy, but I was kind of like, I don't know. And they said we have a lot to learn in the third dimension, but they did indicate the evacuations. And let's end on that one. We can maybe pick this up next time. Let's talk about the evacuations of the Earth that is talked about in Lady Columbus' book, Venus Revelations, written by Raymond Keller, available on my website. That Earth, and let's talk about that real quick.
From what I understand, the Earth changes are only going to take place in the third D, in 3D. So for those that make the shift into the fifth D, there's going to be no need to evacuate. But for those that are in the third D, there are some safe spots where the forces of light are going to be transferring people to these safe zones, and then exactly. But that's also going to be when the dove. Remember, we talked about the dove comes across, descends upon the United States. So, I mean, it could go down in many ways, Rob. But the whole point is that those that are on the spiritual path are not going to be witnessing the apocalypse. Those that are not on the spiritual path are going to be witnessing an apocalyptic type scenario.
Right. And that's a transformation that will allow them to lose their prejudices, their hate, their fear, their judgment, their bigotry, and to begin to cooperate with each other. Well, it's exciting times ahead. We left you with some question marks there. Who knows what's coming in the future? But keep practicing random acts of kindness, show more patience and kindness, more self-control, more sweetness when you're talking to others, and non-judgment, folks. You don't know what other people have been through. Alex, it's been a pleasure to be on here, folks. Thank you so much for coming. I'll let you go. I'm going to close it up with some closing thoughts. All right. Thank you, folks. Remember Alex's website. Ismael's website, and his apology to Alex, and that the rift has been healed even on the earth amongst the contactees. So thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you in Mount Shasta. Maybe we'll get you on one more time.
Sounds good.
All right, folks, I want to share with you a new design of my nuclear receptor here. I just came out with this. This is called the Star of Life, based on the Venusian information that was given to Fred Bell. This technology utilizes 144 pyramids and a concentric spiral. And I have a bunch of different designs here, but I'm really excited about this new one. So I'm going to do this so you can see it. Okay, so I'm going to share this. It's really kind of cool. Some people call it a Mr. T starter kit, but I really like it. So the Star of Life, let me explain this to you, is oops, I'm not going to share screen actually. So the Star of Life is let me pull it this way. And these aren't diamonds, folks. I don't have that kind of money. These are called moissanite, harder than diamonds. They fluoresce. It's more colorful. But each point of star represents a point of flourishment for the human being, the Adam Cadman. So we see here, this is the spiritual point of the Star of Life. You must have a relationship to Creator and the Spirit. The next one would be the physical. You have to take care of your body. You have to brush your teeth. You have to, do a good job with exercise and have a balanced, natural life. You have good thoughts, eat good food. Okay. The next one is called the mental. You must learn and grow every day. So you have to learn and keep your cup open. Learn to think and to be aware, and to don't hold on to that all your learning is done. Oh, you can have faith in God and Christ, but you can show your allegiance to Christ by living his message and worshiping him as a spirit. The personality worship of Jesus Christ, he is the most powerful incarnation possible in the physical plane, as we heard, as the living word of God, or the Creator's Son. And many other avatars hold that office just as equally as anointed, not that particularly anointed as that incarnation was. But so you have to learn and grow. And then the other one, of course, is what we would call financial. The Venusians call it service because they don't have a financial system. So you must serve and you must do something in your life to contribute to your society. And we can create a society that requires very little contribution. It can be in the sciences and arts. It's not all about slaving away for money. That's in a reptilian and a fallen energy thought form. Once we have the spirit of truth embedded within us, which is more available now than ever, we can reach these higher plateaus of ascension. So the spirit is pouring out upon all flesh now. The bad guys, all the AI technology is being taken out. There's a junior AI. I didn't have time to get into this with Ismael, but Kim Gogan, whether anyone believes it or not, is ground command. She is the interim head of state of every country in the world. She's a city's controller. She's in charge of all the Earth's military systems, not the individuals within the military system, but their high technology. She can turn the nukes and have them explode right on the spot. They're never going to happen anymore. She's been taking down all the artificial intelligence control systems built by these fallen beings that have been in our system at a very high level. We're very close to getting funded. It seems as though the governments are giving up. You're going to see a lot of resignations in Congress and big corporations. Their battle to destroy the earth is lost. Whether they realize it or not, things are going to get better for us. You're going to see more extraterrestrials coming forward. So keep your mind open to learning and keep your consciousness open for service. The final star of life is your social. And a lot of people think it's good to go sit in the cave and meditate. And for certain individuals on a certain path, that's a good way to go. Complete detachment. I have a friend I used to know who said the world's an illusion. Yes, it is. But to deny the reality of life and love is a mistake. So we have to have a social life. And you can go up and down on all 5 of these points of star. If you get super into money, that's all you think about. And you become a miser and a control freak. You get into greed and power. If you get too much into your body, you become a musclehead and you negate the rest of your life so you look pretty. If you become too spiritual, you become a priest and think you know everything, and tell everyone what to do. Complete violation of God's law of sovereignty. And trust me, folks, those guys know nothing more about God than you. None of those pastors. Some of them are well-intended and have a mostly positive influence from the scriptures. However, the dogma, religious dogma of all these churches of Christianity, Seventh-day Advent, this, that, blah, blah, blah. There's only one God, folks. And there's only one Christ, yet every Christ lives within you as you. So exalt that Christ within you. Know that you're powerful, that you don't need these teachers and leaders, and come together. As our solar flares increase and the heats take out our electromagnetic grid systems, we're going to see some problems in our communication, possibly travel. And can you imagine how the kids getting the phones taken away? What are they going to do? They're going to have to look up around, and they're going to be ripe for learning. As the spaceships come, people like Ismael, me, Alex Collier, and many others, including a Pleiadian contact you met, Valiant Thor, is having real experiences. I will disagree with some of her information, which it's not important to emphasize, but there's a lot of information coming out about the liberation of the earth and the quarantine of earth and the light forces surrounding and stopping the negativity. So for those of you who are listening, please have compassion on your brothers and sisters who are still looking at the television, who still believe things like Trump and the global currency reset and the white hats. You are a white hat. We don't need any military operatives or anybody in government. They have nothing to offer us. None of them have done anything with the money they've been given but create wars and suffering. The money will be given to you, the people, in the global restoration plan. It will be local governance only and a constitutional republic around the world of counties. There will be no more nationalist agenda. There will be no more Supreme Court. The laws are going to be very simple. The endless laws and ordinances and paperwork and insurance will all go away, and we'll have a lot of free time to pick up plastic and restore this planet. I'll be talking about that and trying to explain a little bit of Kim Gogan's position here. And people don't like it. A lot of people are angry, but she's in charge, folks. Get used to it. It's a woman. Go girl power. The divine feminine is now ushering in its vibration to the earth, and it's going to transform us. With all this information and all the stuff in politics that people want to talk about, it comes down to God and your relationship with the creator within yourself. You are a co-creator. Your thoughts are things, but you don't create things in a flash. Oh, I want this, it happens. That may be happening more for certain people who've developed themselves. But by entering the silence without desire, you can tune into God's will and follow that will. You have a choice. So we collectively manifest this world. And that's why I've always felt it's important that people understand the reality that we're not alone, that we live in a multidimensional omniverse. People don't like the word hierarchy, but I'm sorry, folks, you're going to have to face it. There's gifted people in all areas, and it doesn't mean that anyone's more or less or better or worse. Actually, it's more or less. Some people have more information, more awareness in certain areas, and everyone is growing and learning and will develop into super spiritual beings. As these vibrational shifts happen, as you begin to develop your meditative powers, your concentration, and you can focus on your breath and your connection to God, and you realize that everyone else is God, you will begin to serve them service to others. And they have kept us so long struggling to serve ourselves and to pay for our bills through their draconian scarcity and lack system known as the fiat currency financial system. Their attempts at digital currency will not happen. They do not have the technology to pull this off. It's been destroyed and it's unholy. The real quantum system, they do have quantum AI that can monitor certain things, and they're doing that through your apps and your phones, but they don't have the ability to ding you on a social credit system. That huge level of quantum system is controlled by the light forces. God bless Kim Gogan and those people and those enforcers from the higher dimensions that are removing these demons who actually were very esoterically involved in opening up portals through the heart program and through demon worship and human sacrifice. In fact, folks, I'm sorry to say it, but all the people in the military have been pawns in the theater of war, an orchestrated event to feed the demons who live on the loosh. That's what wars are. Wars are loosh farms. And the generals who have knowingly met with other generals on the opposing side and decided who's going to win the wars so that they can enrich themselves and have power, those days are over. You innocent fodder in the military, refuse those orders. You are being misled to kill people you don't even know. It's really a consolidation of power of the reptilian and Draco force. Now there's nowhere for them to run and nowhere to hide. Their masters are no longer on the planet. There are a few left here so that we can see what they're doing and will be exposed. And mankind can heal itself from the abomination and the misdirection that we've been led. Energy follows thought, and the mind is the slayer of the real. So keep your thoughts focused on God, on love, and on each other, and we can solve the situation. Encourage the people in the police, into finance, and in biological weapons to not be following orders that destroy things. We have to end these chains of food supply that are poison. We need to have billions and billions of dollars to create organic heirloom food farms while we restore the natural earth and from the spraying of the toxic chemicals. Those must be outlawed around the world. We must destroy all the genetically altered crops. We must learn to not vitiate our food through cooking. We're going to learn a lot about pure natural food and how to grow it. And we don't have to pack it in these with red dye number 5, 7, yellow, polysorbate, all of those additives, emulsifiers, ingredients, glycophosphates on the food. You're not glucose, you're not wheat intolerant, you're toxic spray intolerant. GMO, organic, they mean nothing now. You literally have to grow your own food. So we're going to have to change this around. And we're going to have to come together. We're going to have to lose our egos and not be in control and learn to work with other people. So that's my message for today. And the final star is that social one. So you can't be this happy guy who's partying all the time, but you have to relate to other people and you have to have a balance in your life socially, financially, mentally, physically, and spiritually. That's the 5-pointed star of life. And enjoy those little mosaites there. They're really fun. We have different designs and different stones. You can check that out under my shop. A lot of great stuff. God bless you all. And thank you so much for being on the show.